if you could sit there last night watching Sunday Night Football, if you were watching the game, whether you were watching it from the whole first quarter, sorry, I don't know why my camera was doing that, whether you're watching it from the whole first quarter, whether you were tuning in to the end, regardless if you're watching that game, and you can sit there and be like, you know what? This was the game of the year. You know what? I had a lot of fun. This was great. I don't know what to tell you at that point. I don't think there's much hope for you. I'm sorry. If you could sit there and you didn't see anything suspicious about that game going on, I think somebody needs to hit up their local eye doctor and maybe get some eyes checked, make sure that vision's working. That was an absolute sham that we watched Sunday night. So, for those out there saying that it was the game of the year, I don't know what game you were watching. That was honestly kind of hard to watch, I'm not going to lie. I had a feeling going into that game, I wasn't even interested in going into it. You know why? Because considering really all they had to do, I knew there was going to be something up. I knew it. And I knew that there was going to be something in terms of some kind of agenda going on into that game. And it turns out there was. So if you're going to sit there, anyone who's sitting there saying that that was a genuine, fair game, I truly don't know what to tell you. I don't know what you were watching, and maybe you should probably not watch another football game the rest of your life, because how about you have some standards? How about you have a backbone? That game was absolutely putrid to watch. I'm sorry. It absolutely was. In the fourth quarter, you have the Raiders, who are currently leading the Chargers by, a touchdown? 10 points? I can't remember. They give up 4 fourth downs. 3 or 4 in the fourth quarter alone. And these aren't 4th and 1s, 4th and 2s. These are 4th and 21, 4th and 10, 4th and 11. I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen anything like that. Absolutely insane, dude. I've never seen anything like that. And even when the, even when the Raiders were up by a field goal in overtime, they gave up another 4th down. Another 4th and 10, 4th and 11, 4th and 9, whatever it was. This game, and I knew it going into this game. Look, I'm a big sports bettor myself. I bet every day. But watching that game, especially that fourth quarter, you knew the Raiders were laying up. The Raiders were letting them get yardage. And right on cue, Justin Herbert, 4th down again. Right on cue, right with 2 seconds left, Justin Herbert throws a perfect ball to, I don't know if it was the Palmer guy. I can't remember who it was. Easily, Mike Williams, I don't remember. Easily for a touchdown, going into overtime. This is what the NFL wanted. Now, I'm not sitting here saying this game was predetermined in the sense of the NFL contacting and getting in touch with the teams in terms of, all right, guys, this is how the game's going to go. This is what we want. We're all in full agreement. We're all going to tie. Not like that. But this was absolutely an agenda that this game was supposed to be neck and neck. This game was supposed to go to the final wire. The game's played in Vegas. What does that tell you? Number 2, the viewership, the money that game alone brought in. Absolutely. And we know the NFL is a business. But what's sad and what bothers me, it doesn't even matter. I'm not even saying this as a Steeler fan. It could be anybody in the position the Steelers were hoping that the team didn't tie. It's not even about the freaking tie. You know what it's about? It's simply about both teams letting this happen, both teams not being genuine, not that lack of competitive nature of wanting to knock out your division rival, playing to win, the integrity of the game. None of it was there. None of it was there. And like I said, I'm not saying that both teams had to talk, hey, we're going to try to tie this thing and we can both go in the playoffs. I'm not saying that happened. I'm not saying, like I said, that the NFL freaking told Brandon Staley and the Raiders and whoever that we're going to aim for a tie. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it was scripted in that sense where the NFL already knew the outcome. I'm not saying that. The agenda was, okay, we know this game's in Vegas. We know there's a lot of things attached to this game. We know the possibilities that can come out of this game, and we know how much money, how much audience, how much things we can benefit from this. And you saw it right happen. It went into overtime, the final seconds. Were the Raiders going to kick a field goal? Were they going to need the football? But what bothers me is just the lack of integrity, the lack of just no genuine play there, man. You know, that I don't understand. You're playing this game that you get paid millions of dollars to play, a professional game. I don't understand how you can sit there and have the mindset, yeah, you know what? Let's go in with a tie. We're not going to beat each other. And let trues be trues. Who plays like that? So that's my problem, is the lack of competitiveness, the lack of heart, no genuine play here from both sides of the team, from both sides. That's my problem. And if that tie happened, I would not have watched the NFL playoffs. I'm sorry. I was not going to watch the NFL playoffs simply because of that. Simply because of that. Absolute disgrace that we witnessed last night. For the people out there that say it was just a phenomenal game and everything like that, I really don't know what to tell you. If you don't see my points of where I'm coming from, I don't know why my camera's backing out like that. Hold on. God, why is it doing this? Okay. If you don't see my points and my reasons as to where I'm coming from, as to why, as just a football fan in general, that it kind of bothers me, I really don't know what to tell you. I mean, as a viewer, I want to watch the competitive nature of the sport. I want to watch players play because, you know, they love the game, obviously, and, you know, you're getting paid millions of dollars to do this. I don't understand why the Raiders wouldn't want to knock out a divisional opponent, and even you can avoid Kansas City if you win. But regardless, it's not about the Steelers being on the recipient end of this. It's absolutely not. You can replace anybody with that. It's the fact of the agenda that went on with this game. The fact of both teams seeming okay to just not win the game, not bother to win the game, knock one out, you know, and actually earn your right to the playoffs. That's my problem with it. And if you disagree with me, okay, that's fine. But I give, and I know I give, valid reasons as to why I didn't like that game, I didn't enjoy that game, and I give valid reasons as to why that game was absolutely, whether you want to call it fixed in a way, whether you want to say that there was things supposed to happen in that game, point and simple, honestly. Absolutely ridiculous as to why that happened. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, this is In Hindsight, folks. We are back, episode 49. It is Monday, January 10th. Hopefully you guys are having a good day. Hopefully you guys are having a good start to the week, man. A lot of times things aren't easy either, as when you're on top of going to work and everything. So, hoping all the best for all you guys out there. I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning into the show. I can always never say thank you enough, but I wanted to get on here, and really that was the main thing that I wanted to talk about. And I'm going to continue to talk about it. But I hope you guys can see my viewpoint as to why I did not enjoy that game. I hope you guys can see my reasons as to why there definitely was some kind of agenda going on in that game for certain things to happen. Of it coming down to the wire. There was a lot of things involved in that game. And I'm not sitting here saying the NFL is scripted or anything like that. I'm not saying Roger Goodell knew the outcome of the game or the NFL contacted both teams as to how things should go. I'm not saying that. But, there were a lot of things leading into this game, and I knew things were going to happen in the game anyway. That's why I truly just didn't have an interest. But it's just the thing that bothers me is just the lack of integrity, I feel like, from both sides. And both sides just feeling like, yeah, no, we'll both agree to a tie. And we'll both go into the playoffs and everything like that. Like, you're playing to win. This is your divisional opponent. You should want to win to earn your way to the playoffs. Have some integrity for the game. And that's what I don't like about either side of the teams feeling okay about that. I don't agree with that at all. But the Raiders did kick the field goal to win the game with 2 seconds left. I know there was a lot of questions around Brandon Staley calling that timeout. I think the reason why he did was because the Raiders were going to run the ball again. And their defense wasn't set, and he called timeout, and then they kicked the field goal, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, I think what the NFL needs to do to avoid this crap happening is circumstances like this where, what this game had, you don't play that at Sunday night after the outcomes of the rest of the games. You play that kind of game at 1 o'clock with the rest of the games going on. Now, if you want to play a game on Sunday Night Football in the last week of the season, you win, you're in, you lose, you out, you tie, it doesn't freaking matter. You got to win the game. That's fine. That makes for great television. That makes for a great game. That makes for a great competitive nature of the game. I think ties need to be eliminated from the NFL anyway. Eliminate the ties. If you want to implement maybe what college football does, I don't know. Get rid of the ties in the NFL. You play to win the game. Simple as that. But there absolutely was a lot of things that were going to go into this game before it started. I think we all knew that. But hopefully you guys can see my point and see that my reasons are valid as to why the game went down as it did, and also my reasons as to why my problems with that game itself. But anyway, the Raiders are going to the playoffs. Chargers are out. Now, I do like Justin Herbert. Don't get me wrong. He's a lot of fun to watch. I do like him. But I will never be rooting for the Chargers ever again in my life. Most likely not, unless if it's referring to the Steelers or something like that. I will not be rooting for the Chargers ever again in my life. Absolutely not. And the Raiders, the thing with the Raiders is Derek Carr. The Raiders have been through a lot this season with their coach and Henry Ruggs. Damon Arnett was another guy that brought attention to them in terms, I believe he had a DUI or something. But good on the Raiders head coach. I don't know his name, but being able to still, through the adversity, get the team to the point where they were, being able to get into the playoffs, it's not an easy thing to do. And Derek Carr, I have a lot of respect for Derek Carr as a person. And Derek Carr's always kind of been, he's always been like an above average quarterback. He's never really gotten into that level of some of the other guys. But the Raiders haven't done him any favors ever since they really drafted him. Like I feel like they never really built around him well. They've had their struggles of developing guys. But this year, finally, Derek Carr's kind of in the playoffs, as in 2017, I think was the year where he was having that great year, MVP candidate, and got hurt. And the Raiders definitely probably could have went on a run that year. But it is nice to see a guy like Derek Carr get an opportunity in the playoffs, see what he can do. They will go on to face Cincinnati. I don't know if that's Saturday or Sunday. I have to look at the schedule. But anyway, yeah, so I do respect Derek Carr a lot, but that was just the points I wanted to get out there, just in terms of my dissatisfaction from both sides of that team, in terms of what they were wanting to do or planning on doing. I just don't agree with it. And Rich Eisen, if you guys, I'm sure you guys pretty much know who Rich Eisen is. He put out a great tweet last night in terms of when the Raiders kicked, he said that's the way you do it. You're playing a divisional rival. You play to win the game. You kick a divisional rival out, you earn your way to the playoffs. 100%. And that's all the points I'm making. That's all the points I am making. So, anyway, nonetheless, Raiders go in the playoffs, Chargers are out. And you know what, dude? The Chargers, they're obviously fun to watch. Justin Herbert's a great quarterback. They got a lot of talent. They're very close to being one of the more top-tier teams in the AFC. 100%. I think they got to do just add a little bit maybe on the defensive side. But they have good talent there. Mike Williams is a free agent. They might have to add. But the thing is, they are fun to watch. They're a fun offense. Justin Herbert's a lot of fun. He's already, in his second year, solidified himself as a top 5 quarterback in this league, which, you don't always see rookie quarterbacks right away kind of do. So, but I will not be rooting for the Chargers simply because of everything I said ever again, unless if it's Steeler related. Now, I will still enjoy watching Justin Herbert. I still like Justin Herbert. I will still enjoy probably watching them play. But will I care? I'm not going to sit there and be like, "Oh man, I hope the Chargers lose" or something like that. I don't care anyway. But just simply out of those things, if they lose, all right, awesome. Could care less. See you later. If that makes sense. I don't hold a freaking grudge. I just don't appreciate really what both sides were thinking about doing, and maybe their possible intentions in terms of what was going to go down there. I don't appreciate that as a football fan. But nonetheless, I got to look at the playoff schedule. But yeah, that was now going back to the perspective here as me as a Steeler fan, as all Steeler fans out there. Obviously, I knew, like I said, that something was going to happen in this game. Not saying that I knew it was going to go to the final seconds in overtime. I just knew there were going to be certain factors in this game that was probably going to keep it very, very close and on your toes in terms, is there going to be a tie? You know what I mean? Who's going to be going to the playoff? You know what I'm saying? There were storylines going in the game. As a Steeler fan, look, I said about 3 weeks ago, and you can say it on this, probably hear it on this podcast unless I didn't do a show on it. I said, and I've said this to people before, I was like, look, regardless of who makes the playoffs this year, or regardless if they make the playoffs this year, truly, I really don't care. I'm going to enjoy Ben's final ride. If we get into the playoffs, great. It's cool to give him another chance. If we don't, it is what it is. I just want to enjoy it. The fact that they got in with everything that's gone on this year in terms of them as a team is definitely a remarkable thing. And sure, as a Steeler fan, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll be cheering them on going against Kansas City. But it was more of me wanting to enjoy just Ben's final games. That was it. So it really wasn't going to bother me regardless if the Steelers got in or not, 3 weeks ago, even up to now. It was just more, I just want to enjoy it. That's it. So, but I am going to transition here into the Steelers because this show was mainly going to be what we saw Sunday night. I want to transition the Steelers, and I'll go over the playoff picture briefly. But, it's funny, when the season started, there were a lot of people that wrote this team off, said they're a 5-win team, 6-win team, they're not going to make the playoffs. I never understood that narrative because I don't get how you can look at Mike Tomlin and everything he's accomplished, even in 2019. You know what I mean? When he went 8-8 with Duck and Mason Rudolph at quarterback and was 8-5, close to a playoff spot. And then last year they start 11-0 and they still go 12-4. So now with this year, I just didn't really understand people's mindsets in terms of how that they're not going to be good or competitive. I'm like, look, I could see this team winning 10 games. I could see them winning 8 games. Regardless, I think that they're going to be a competitive team and that they're going to be relevant in one way or another because that's what they are. That's what they do. That's how Mike Tomlin coaches his team. So, to anyone out there, I know a lot in the sports media, Pitt media, and even Steeler fans out there that before the season started thought that their season was already done, that they're going to be ass, they're not going to be good. LOL. You know? And sure, everybody, you know, you're not always going to predict the right things, but yeah, I'm laughing at you. You're a clown. Because if you can sit there and say that a Mike Tomlin-led team's only going to win 5 games with Ben Roethlisberger, I don't know what to tell you. Ben Roethlisberger's never had a losing season in his whole career, 18 years. Never had a losing season in his life. That's a remarkable thing. Mike Tomlin never having a losing season, that's a remarkable thing. And I know Steeler fans will there's certain Steeler fans out there that, you know, maybe things aren't going well for a little bit, or maybe they're just not a big Tomlin fan, they'll mention that. But the thing is, it's still a remarkable thing nonetheless. You know, what's it say about a coach who is always keeping his team competitive through the highs, through the lows, injuries, maybe some lack of talent there, and still being able to keep your team afloat there? There's reasons players love playing for the guy. Mike Tomlin cares about players, not just on the football field. He cares about their personal lives. You know, a lot of former players say he's like a father figure in a way that a lot of coaches aren't. It's not just about football. And I appreciate that too. Like, look, I love Mike Tomlin. I do. I always have. Sure, are there things about him that, you know, have rubbed me the wrong way? I mean, yeah, absolutely. But there's no perfect coach. So, and for anyone that doesn't like Mike Tomlin, that's fine. I mean, that's your own personal feeling. But you can't deny the guy's a Hall of Fame coach. You can't deny that he's been a great coach for this franchise. You know what I mean? And you can't deny that regardless of who's on his team, he's going to keep them competitive. He's going to win games with them. You know, you have years where the Steelers are cream of the crop in the AFC. There's been years where the Steelers, whether they've dealt with injuries or a lack of talent there, whatever it is, you look at 2019, you look a little bit at this year, you look at even 2015 when they were 10-6. Heck, you looked when they were 4-5 in 2016 and they ran the table, went 11-5 and went to the AFC Championship. You can look at all these previous years when they really weren't one of the better teams in the league, but they were still there. Whether they got in the playoffs or not, they were still relevant. 8-9 wins, get in the playoffs with 10 wins. You know what I mean? They're always relevant regardless of how good or maybe not so good they are as a team. They're always there to fight. And as a fan, I appreciate that. But that's the thing about the Steelers organization compared to a lot of other ones. They're stable. You know, they're resilient. They know what they're getting out of their head coach, out of their front office. They do have a certain standard. I know the standard's a little corny now, but they do at the end of the day. There's a reason why the team is always one of the better teams in the AFC, in the NFL, or why, you know, on years maybe they're not up there in terms of talent, but why they're still always alive. It's how they are as an organization. They know how to run it. They know how to develop talent. They know how, you know, players want to play for this organization. It's simple as that. So I think you got to give credit there where credit's due. You know? And I am seeing some people who wrote them off in the offseason, you know, and okay, that's great. But I just never really understood that going to the season, people's mindsets in terms that this team was going to be dog crap or dog shit, or, you know, the season's over before it started. I never understood that. I never did. And I never will. As long as Mike Tomlin's the head coach of this team, I don't know how anybody could ever have them bottom of the barrel. But anyway, the Steelers, man, defeat the Ravens yesterday on the road. It was very windy. It was a little foggy, rainy game. And it all came full circle for Ben, man. He really started his career against the Ravens, first game, and then finished it against the Ravens and finished with a win. And it's really no fitting end in terms of these last 2 games for Big Ben, man. The Monday night home game against Cleveland was absolutely amazing. One of the most enjoyable Steeler games I have watched in my lifetime. And just going to that real quick, that was really emotional. I know I didn't do a show after that or anything. But that was a really emotional game going into it at the end, man. I was crying at the end and everything like that, but just what a fitting way, man, for the Steelers to beat the Browns, Big Ben to beat the Browns. It just couldn't have wrote itself. It was honestly a great way to go about it for the last home game for him. And then, obviously, with the Ravens winning in Baltimore, a typical Ravens-Steeler game, ugly football, close game. That's just the way it goes. So, but that's the current state of the Steelers team, man. This Steelers team, it's not going to blow out teams. It's not going to score tons of points. That's how they've been this season. They've had ups. They've had downs this season. They've had a lot of trouble in first halves this season, man, and it's just how they are. When they win games, they're going to squeak by. They're going to win ugly. They're going to win close. Games they lose, they're either going to win close or they're going to get blown out. It's just the way they've been this year. And it's just the state of the team. But the thing is, this team never gave up. They stayed resilient. They found ways to win and everything like that. The defense has been playing a lot better. The Steelers' defense was very disappointing this season, to say the least, because this was still projected to be a top 5 defense with the amount of talent here. But I would say probably the last 4 or 5 weeks or so, they've been playing a lot better football, turnovers, everything like that. Obviously, they've been getting a quarterback all year long. They finished the season leading the NFL in sacks for the 5th straight season. And so they have been playing better. But that's just that's just how they are as a team. But they've stayed resilient. They've stayed together. They've kept playing, kept finding ways to win. And here they are finding themselves as the 7th seed in the playoffs. TJ Watt almost broke the sack record. He did tie Michael Strahan at 22.5, which is absolutely phenomenal feat in itself. I believe the NFL is reviewing if they want to give TJ Watt a half sack on the fumbled snap by Tyler Huntley or not, which they could. I mean, who knows? But what a phenomenal season for him. Easily Defense Player of the Year. No doubt about it. And everything this dude brings to the NFL. I mean, he's not just somebody that sacks a quarterback, just pressures on quarterbacks, force fumbles. He can drop back from time to time in coverage, man. He's a very smart player. He's the face of the organization, and this is going to be one of many DPOYs for this guy. You can say he's just as good as his brother's been in his brother's prime. So, nonetheless, just really impressive stuff from Watt. Cam Hayward had a great year as well. Mikko Fitzpatrick had a really good year. I think a lot of people overlook it because he didn't get the turnovers he usually does. But this guy, with how bad the run defense was this year, this guy had over 100 tackles. He really transitioned into, I think, a really physical player as well this season. And really what he brought in the back end, especially trying to make plays that, was not on him. I mean, if it wasn't for him, the Steelers might not have 9 wins that they do, So, great years for them. I think Ahkello Witherspoon, cornerback who they acquired from Seattle, and before the season started, they didn't really play him a whole lot to start the year, but really I'd say the last 5-6 weeks or so, they've been giving him even more snaps. He's been very impressive from getting turnovers, from passes defended, really locking down guys, and it's you got to give credit where credit's due there, and he's definitely worthy of another contract. Martravius Adams, who had to step in, they brought in from the practice squad a few weeks ago. They had him step in for Bugs and some other guys. Alu was obviously out all season long, but he definitely was a big difference maker in terms of being, defensive tackle and bringing him from a practice squad on in, and I could easily see the Steelers retaining him and, letting him be a viable piece of the defensive line next season. But, yeah, it was... Terrell Edmunds didn't have too bad of a season. I think Terrell Edmunds is making, strides by the year. He's going to be a free agent. They didn't pick up his 5th year, but I could see them wanting to retain him. Devin Bush had a very disappointing season. Some of it could have been the ACL recovery, but we'll see what he does next season if he can get back to that form. We saw his rookie year and half his second season, but very disappointing. I didn't think Joe Schobert was that good this year either, but I believe he'll still be here next year unless they trade him or cut him or something like that for money, but they have enough money to work with. Yeah, and there was no Stephon Tuitt this year, obviously, which hurt, but he has his personal problems he's dealing with. That's more important than playing right now. So he's got to take care of that. Hopefully he's back doing better next season. Joe Hayden's going to be a free agent. We'll see what happens with him. He still shows, man. Joe Hayden's 32 years old, going on 33, and he's still playing at a high level. Joe Hayden in the Tennessee game making that huge tackle was huge. And when he's out there, you see how much more effective our secondary is. So I'd be all for bringing him back. Age is just a number as long as you're playing at a good level, honestly. Cam Sutton had a great game Sunday with a nice interception, locking down guys, making plays in the secondary. So I don't really expect a lot of difference with the Steelers defense going next year. I mean, they always could sign another corner possibly. Maybe depends what they do with a couple guys that are free agents. But I don't think we're going to see anything too crazy in terms of a change of their defense. Possible defensive coordinator, we could see a difference. But they have been better the last 5 weeks. Going to the offense, Big Ben being 39 years old, he threw for 3,500 yards. I think he had about 23 touchdowns, 10 picks. Big Ben wasn't focused on his stats, man. He wanted to come back, win games, try to get this team back to the playoffs, have one more run, and he gets that chance. Big Ben at 39 years old, he's had 7 game-winning drives this year. He's led the NFL in game-winning drives and fourth quarter touchdowns and everything like that. He's done what he's could as a 39-year quarterback, man. He hasn't had it easy with the offensive line in front of him. Very young, inexperienced offensive line in front of him. I don't care what quarterback you put back there. They're not going to have that much success. And we know Big Ben, has a lot of diminished skills at this point in his career. But he's still shown he's been able to make the plays. There's been a few games where everything was just solely on him keeping the team in. And he's the ultimate competitor. At 39, he did what he could with the offensive line. The running game was a little bit better than what it was last year in terms of what Najee Harris did compared to James Conner and guys like that. The offensive line has been a little bit better in terms of pass protection, but we all know the Steelers' offensive line just still isn't good, isn't where it needs to be. There'll definitely be changes there. But he did what he could. And he led this team again to 9 wins and kept them in a lot of fights, brought them back a lot of times, and that's really all you can ask for at this point in his career. Deontay Johnson finally emerged this season as wide receiver 1, had a really nice season, really worked on the drops and everything, but he's finished with, I want to say maybe 1,100 yards, close to it, if that. I think he had about 6 touchdowns or so, something like that. But he's definitely emerged and flourished into his third season. Chase Claypool didn't have the touchdowns he had his rookie year. He definitely kind of had a little bit of a step back, but he was still productive at times too this year. He has a lot of tools to be a really good receiver. He's just got to put it together and polish it, kind of mature a little bit. We'll see how he does in the offseason. Juju obviously being hurt. It'll be interesting to see if he comes back or not. I think it's possible. He loves it here. He's not going to get a big contract. I think maybe depending on the QB situation, we'll determine if he comes here, but he should go wherever he knows he's going to maximize himself at for a big contract. So we'll see what he does there. Would I love to see him back? 100%. Pat Freiermuth definitely emerged into somebody who will easily be the number 1 tight end for this team for the long run. He's a do-it-all type of tight end, made a lot of big plays for Big Ben, man, and easily became, aside from Johnson, his favorite target. The offensive line, Dan Moore, left tackle. We'll start there. Dan Moore had a lot of growing pains this year. 4th-round draft pick this year. Had a lot of growing pains, but I want to say over the last X amount of games, he's definitely kind of polished himself up a little bit, took strides you're wanting to see later in the season from a rookie. Would not be surprised if he's a starting left tackle next year, which isn't a bad thing. He has 1 year under his belt, a lot of experience. He really polished up his game and his play. I want to say maybe the last 4, 5, 6 weeks or so, which is definitely encouraging. He's definitely in line, I think, to be the left tackle. Left guard, Kevin Dotson, he's been hurt the last several weeks. John Leglue had to step in. I had no idea who he was when he came into play. I doubt he's on the team next year, but Dotson will be back at left guard next season. And Dotson had a really good rookie year last year. He struggled a little bit early on this year, kind of got a little bit better and then got hurt. So it's still going to be young offensive line next year. 100% it will be. But some of these guys, they got a year under their belt. Dotson was hurt. They're going to make some moves as well to strengthen the offensive line from veteran to the draft. So it should be better, which I said last year, I didn't see how it could get worse. It got worse this year. And I'm going to say it again, I don't know how it could get worse. So I expect it to be better. Center, Kendrick Green was terrible at center. It's not his natural position either. I don't expect them to retain him at center. They'll probably draft somebody. I would like to see Linderbaum. I would like to see Tyler Linderbaum from Iowa as the pick. That's always an option. They could look in a free agency. I don't know, but don't expect Kendrick Green to be the center next year. I don't expect that. So it'll probably be rookie or free agent. Right guard, I could see them moving Kendrick Green to right guard, natural position. He might be fitted better there. Trey Turner's a free agent. So Trey Turner, I don't see them retaining him, be honest. At right tackle, Okorafor, he's going to be a free agent. I would let him walk. I don't see any reason to bring him back. I definitely think you could look into free agency for a veteran right tackle. That's an option. There's some tackles out there. Like I said, there's a few centers on the market you could look at. So I definitely expect the Steelers to make a couple moves to their offensive line. And, they'll add some depth through the draft. Maybe they'll sign a low-key guy to add some depth to. But nonetheless, we all know there's going to be some changes to the offensive line as they need that. Running back Najee Harris. Najee Harris had a really good rookie season. And a lot of people want to give him crap for whatever reason. I don't understand. Look who he's running behind. There were a lot of times where Najee Harris would run the ball and it wasn't going to go anywhere, but yet he would still get 3 or 4 or 5 yards out of it on his own. It's a testament of his own talent. Najee Harris finished the season with over 1,100 yards. I believe he had, over 10 total touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. I think he had 500 some receiving yards. So, really good rookie season, really good rookie showing for him. He had over 300 carries. And, God, why is this doing this? Hold on. I might need to get a new camera here, folks. I don't know why it's lingering on and off. Hold on. Thank you. He had over 300 carries. Didn't fumble one time. That's an absolutely remarkable stat. Absolutely remarkable thing from him. So very impressive from Najee Harris, man, this season, and definitely something he's going to keep building on into the next year. James Washington, he's definitely going to be gone. It was reported he wanted to trade earlier in the year, which I'm sure is true, but he just never really got the opportunities here ever since he got drafted. But the fact that they're playing Ray McCloud over him, I don't know. I think to me it just says what the coaches really think where he's at. And it's just, I don't see any reason to retain him. It's not that he's not talented. Let him go somewhere else. He's going to go somewhere else where there's opportunity. Thrive there, James, and best of luck for your career. So, this is definitely, I just kind of wanted to, as I'm talking about the Steelers, just kind of talking about the Ravens game a little bit, the Browns game, and them obviously getting in. But I just kind of wanted to go over some of these guys on defense in terms of what they did briefly. I'm not going to just break down, everything. But we'll definitely see changes on the offense, clearly. And this is definitely the most interesting offseason, and I think the most exciting offseason for the Steelers in a very long time. Yes, the quarterback position is obviously the main focal of that. But this is the first time, and I can't remember when, that the Steelers actually had cap room and money to work with. Every year, they're against the cap, gotta restructure guys, maybe cut some guys, trade guys, whatever it is, to create cap room. This is the first time they actually have money to move, to work with, to do things with. They got about $45 million currently, as it stands. Now, will they probably give a couple extensions? Sure, Mikko Fitzpatrick is due. Deontay Johnson's probably due. So that will definitely come into that. But you're still going to have a lot of money to work with in a free agency to do things. So for that reason alone, absolutely. But I'm very excited to see, yes, quarterback, but I'm very excited to see what moves they'll do because there are some interesting names on the market. They could bring in a corner, depending what they do. I would like to maybe see another inside linebacker, looking at the play we got. Offensive line. Those are 3 positions right there you could see. We'll see what they do with Edmonds. But obviously the big thing's quarterback, man. And when I talk to Steeler fans or I see Steeler fans online, it really seems like the consensus for quarterback is this. Either Aaron Rodgers or Kenny Pickett. And here's what I'm going to say. I will say this. Mason Rudolph will not be the starting quarterback next year. I will bet the house on that. The man will be in his 5th NFL season starting next year, going in the NFL season, his 5th. There hasn't been any type of hype or praise from this organization in terms of Mason Rudolph being the guy moving forward. Mason Rudolph is an average backup. That's his career in the NFL. It's just how he is. It's just how he is. Excuse me. There hasn't been any of that. And there's absolutely nothing the Steelers have shown as to Mason Rudolph being that. If you think it's going to be Mason Rudolph, okay. I personally do not. I think the Steelers realize, look at everything they've kind of gone through this year and still found themselves in the playoffs. The talent that they are going to have still. The Steelers do not rebuild, folks. They retool, if anything. Sometimes there's transition periods. They are not a team that rebuilds. The Steelers going into 2022 will still have a lot of talent on that defense and that offense. Sure, there's going to be some things they're going to have to work on in free agency and through the draft. But this team is still a team that can compete next year in the division and be a competitive team and win games. The Steelers are going to be looking at quarterbacks on the market that they know can do that for them. So I will bet the house that it is not Mason Rudolph. They've seen what they've had in Rudolph the last 4 years. There's a reason they have not tried to pursue him to be the starter sooner. Not happening. Now, Aaron Rodgers, is it possible? Anything's possible. Sure, I think there's a percentage of a chance it does happen. Is it likely? Probably not. He's having a great season in Green Bay. He seems to be enjoying his time there, and he's going to be on his trying to get to Super Bowl. But is it possible? Sure. I think it's going to depend on the contract and money. I believe, from what I've read, you're not going to have to trade for him. He has a clause where if he doesn't want there, he has void years on his contract. So that's kind of a plus. But it's possible, sure. Russell Wilson, there's been rumors of Russell Wilson wanting traded. I do not see the Steelers doing that simply because they build their team through the draft and they're going to have to give up a lot of draft capital for him. Would it be a great thing? Absolutely. But they're going to have to give up a lot. Deshaun Watson, do you really want that here in Pittsburgh again? I don't. Deshaun Watson's a great quarterback. Deshaun Watson's top 5 quarterback when he plays. But do we want that baggage here again as from what we've had before? No. Again, you're going to have to give up a lot. Here's the thing. Deshaun Watson is going to get traded. And whatever team he gets traded to, they're going to have a quarterback. Now, what team that is, I don't know. But that team is going to have a starting quarterback. Could that quarterback possibly be on the move? And the Steelers maybe look at that guy and say, you know what? We like him. We think we can win with him right now. Let's do it. I mentioned Jalen Hurts. Not because Jalen Hurts is going to be on the market. I mentioned Jalen Hurts simply because the Eagles were linked to Deshaun Watson earlier in the season. Philly hasn't really been that committed with Jalen Hurts these last 2 years. Now, I don't think they move on from him. Jalen Hurts has had a good season. He seems like he's taking steps and emerging into a pretty good player. I don't see them doing that. But if that's something, 100% you make that call. People have said Kirk Cousins, not happening. Steelers are not taking on a $35 million cap hit for next year. He'll be in Minnesota. Matt Ryan, not happening. Again, he's going to stay with the Falcons. I'm just kind of doing process of elimination here. Jimmy G has been a name that's been brought up. I don't really care to see it. Now, Jimmy G is better than some options out there, but Derek Carr was a guy that's maybe mentioned. Raiders, there's been talks of maybe moving him before, depending on his contract situation. I mean, Derek Carr could win here for sure. I mean, I'm like, look, I don't think Derek Carr is a guy for this organization to commit to long term, but if he's a starter here 1 or 2 years, I think he can play well. Sure. But the thing is, if they're going to go out and get somebody, whether they're a free agent for some reason or whether they make a trade for somebody, look, the Steelers know what they have. The Steelers know that they can be competitive next season. They know they have a lot of talent to work with, and they're going to want to get somebody in here that can play with that can keep them at a high level of play. It's not going to be Mason Rudolph. Plain as that. Could they draft somebody? It's possible they draft Pickett. Sure. I wouldn't be surprised either if they took a quarterback in round 2. One of these guys that are kind of raw, need some time to work with. Malik Willis, Carson Strong. Sam Howell, I'm not huge on. There's one other, Desmond Ridder. So that's always possible. Don't cross that off, but it's gonna be something, and I'm very intrigued by it. What would I want? I would love to see Aaron for a little bit, and that gives them time in the future years, because this ain't a strong quarterback class in future years to kind of find that guy. But if it's not Aaron, if they draft Kenny Pickett, I wouldn't be mad about it. There's things about him I like, and everything like that. We kind of have to wait and see how the guy does, and hopefully they would kind of maybe then establish offensive line through free agency then, I guess. But if they draft Kenny Pickett, now if they draft Matt Corral, I would not like that. I'm not really big on Matt Corral and everything. Not really my type of, from what I've seen, just not really my thing. But Kenny Pickett, he had a really amazing leap from junior to senior year, and I think he'll probably go within the top 15. I think he'll go ahead of where the Steelers are. But here's the thing: if they take him, it would make for a fun story. It would be very interesting. Kenny Pickett is somebody who I definitely thinks as well can kind of embody a Steeler and a quarterback. He's talented. He does lack arm strength. That's something he can work with, but it's an option. It's possible. Would I be mad about it? Not at all. It would be very interesting. I definitely want offensive line in the first round, and to go out and find a veteran guy, whether if it's Aaron, if it's one of those other top guys, or even if it's somebody that can keep the team competitive for 1 or 2 years until that transition. That's kind of what I would like to see. But if it is Kenny Pickett, I wouldn't be mad about it. So I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a really interesting offseason for this team. But going into the playoff scenarios, we're having, I don't have the dates pulled up, but we have Kansas City versus Steelers. Obviously, it's very unlikely the Steelers win that game, but it is cool. Ben gets one more opportunity. We have Raiders and Bengals. I could see that being a freaking shootout. I could see that being a very high-scoring game. I think that will actually be really fun to watch. Buffalo, New England, two rivals right there going at it. Buffalo won their division with their win, so that game will be in Buffalo. And then also, who else am I missing? God, who am I missing here? Yeah, no, we're good. And then the bye is Tennessee. And then we have, for the NFC, Green Bay gets the bye. It's going to be San Francisco and Dallas. Could be interesting. Monday night, I know for sure, will be the Cardinals at the Rams. The Cardinals, man, just very briefly here, I said going into the season, my main concern with the Cardinals is the coaching. And we've seen that. There's no passion from this Cardinals team. There's no desire. There's no heart. And if they go in with that mindset and that type of attitude into the playoffs and the Rams, I mean, you got to get rid of your coach. I'm sorry. It falls down on coaching too, in my opinion, man. And they just have not been good these last 5 weeks, dude. I know there's no Hopkins, but this team is still there. Watt, I'm not even going to say him because he got hurt early on, but he should be back. Hopkins is supposed to be back, I think. So that does bode well. But with the Cardinals, man, there just hasn't been that. They've just been piss poor these last 5 weeks. I'm sorry. So it's very concerning going to the Rams, but we'll see what they do there. And then we have Tampa Bay's at home, and they're playing, why am I blanking out on Tampa Bay's? Philadelphia. So we'll see how that goes. So interesting playoffs. Obviously, some different teams there, in the NFC and AFC, obviously, as we have that every year. But should be interesting. Very interesting to see how the NFC pans out, because I feel like the NFC's been the NFC's been stronger than the AFC. I feel like the AFC, it's honestly kind of like any team can compete with anybody too. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I wanted to come on here, folks. I wanted to get put up episode 49 here, and I really wanted to just talk about that game on Sunday night and how much, honestly, that bothered me as a football fan. And I saw a lot of people too, really kind of coming from the same point of view I was online through Twitter and other social media and stuff like that. So hopefully you guys saw my reasoning, my viewpoints through that, but I really wanted to come on here and talk about it and just kind of talk about the Steelers as a Steeler fan as well, in terms of, kind of really how they finished the year, man, and, that kind of briefly talk about the playoff picture there too. So, but anyway, that's going to be wrap episode 49. We will be back sometime this week. I'm not sure when we will, so keep an eye out that. Follow my Facebook page in Heintz site to keep up with the channel. Twitter, Nate_Heintz. and Nathan_Heintz on Instagram. I appreciate each and every one of you always for tuning in. Always means a lot to me. Enjoy the rest of your week, guys. We will be back sometime this week with some more content. Keep an eye out for that. Hit the like and subscribe, guys, if you haven't. Just trying to grow the channel as best as I can. Week by week, that's all we can do. I really appreciate it. It goes a far way. And, yeah, so keep up with the channel, guys. Keep up with the social media to, where I post, if I'm putting up content this day or that day or things like that. But anyway, I appreciate it, each and every one of you. Thank you all very much. And we will see you back sometime this week. All right, guys. We'll see you then.